Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily. I'm your host, Ray Flowers. Hopefully you're having a good day here on a Wednesday morning. You can find me at fantasyguru.com. You can find me on Twitter X. You can find me on Instagram and Threads and all those social media places at the Ray Flowers. Send me a note. Send me a comment. You can also send me a question here. Obviously, if you're watching the show live, whether it's on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, whether you're watching on Facebook, it's on Facebook every day, whether you're on Twitter X every day, send me a question here. I'll try to get to those at the end of the show as well. Happy to answer all your questions over in Discord at fantasyguru.com as well. The crew's always over there answering questions. We try to get back to you as quickly as possible, give you the answers you need to make your questions one that are positive versus negatives. Don't forget to go to fantasyguru.com, click on that Join Now tab in the top right corner, and you have access to everything. You can sign up for the seasonal baseball package, sign up for the DFS baseball package, you can sign up for the wagering baseball package. You can sign up for all three of them if you want. You can go MVP and get everything we have to offer. So click that Join Now tab in the top right at fantasyguru.com. You also find links below me here or above me, depending upon where you're hearing or listening to this show, that'll allow you to sign up for the football package, which is the offseason franchise mode, which is all the coverage up to the draft, including all those breakdowns of the players and all of that. We have that available. We've got the all-in package where we just dropped the price on that for $39.99 for the rest of basketball season, the rest of the hockey season, MMA, PGA, NASCAR, all of it. One package, $39.99. That's it. It's a great deal. You get basketball and hockey into the postseason. Justin Fensterman, who you see here on the show yesterday, who made the over-the-shoulder shot. Way to go, Justin. That was not CGI. Justin covers basketball all the way through the playoffs. So you have all the breakdowns and everything through then. So give it a shot. Maybe you want to see what we have to offer at fantasyguru.com. Maybe you like the free show here. Maybe you've heard a little bit on SiriusXM. Give that all-in package a shot. You get everything, all the sports other than football and baseball with that package. We also have the Elite Sports Game Time show, which is Monday through Thursday. Yes, I'll be on it tonight. 8 to 10 Eastern, myself and Justin Fensterman do all the updating in-game. So whatever happens, we react to it on the show. I'll also be on with Jeff Mans today. His Elite Sports show is Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'll be on every Wednesday, which is today. So I've got the 1 hour here with you in the morning on Fantasy Sports Daily. I've got the 3 hours with Jeff Mans on the Elite Plus show. And then I've got the 2 hours with Justin later on the Elite Sports Game Time show. So 6 hours talking for this fella every Wednesday. What are we doing today? Well, there you go. You see it on the screen. We're going to talk about the weather again because we've got to talk about the weather. We're going to talk about the Esteury Ruiz situation. A little more details coming out. We'll conspiracy theorize. This is not a Bigfoot or UFO podcast, but we'll talk a little bit about conspiracy. And not that UFOs or Bigfoot isn't real. That's a topic for another day. We'll give an update on Josh Jung and that wrist issue he's dealing with. We'll talk about some of the hitters that are starting off hot. We'll talk about some of the bullpen situations that are percolating, some of the guys that pitched last night, kind of go through all of that. And remember, before we get involved with some of the particulars of what's gone on the last 24 hours, use the promo code FSD20, FSD20 over at fantasyguru.com to get your discount on those products. And don't forget, you can find us Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just type in Fantasy Sports Daily into that podcast service, see if we pop up. And you can always go to the website, fantasyguru.com. Click the Elite Plus tab. It shows all the podcasts that we have, all the shows that we have, including this one, Fantasy Sports Daily. Okay, so let's start. The Tigers and Mets game was postponed yesterday. That game has been pushed to Thursday. We're hearing that they're basically just pushing back their starters. Those guys will go today and all of that. But this is, and it's something we've harped on, and I just wanted to hit on it again here. Major League Baseball, I don't get this. And it's very confusing to me, and I assume it's very confusing to some of you as well. There's craziness. Why is Major League Baseball sending all these games to the East Coast? Why are they playing games in situations where the weather is concerned? It makes it difficult to set daily lineups. It makes it almost impossible to do DFS. I do the cash game breakdown over at fantasyguru.com. Really shied away from the White Sox and Cubs games yesterday because of the weather. Now those games went off. The game in New York didn't. Why are we doing this? As Jeff Mans tweeted out eloquently or very much street. There might have been an F word involved. Why are we doing this? Why? Why are we not playing games in zones that, I don't know, maybe kind of, sort of should be where we play games, which would be on the West Coast or indoors? That's a great question. I don't have an answer to that. I don't know why Major League Baseball doesn't have an answer to that. I don't know why we're dealing with all these rainouts early in the season. We already have enough problems trying to figure out rotations, as we're well aware. The situation, with the Dodgers, we talked about that. They went with a bullpen game a week into the season. I'm not really sure what Major League Baseball is doing. I wish they would do a better job of it. Doesn't seem like they're going to. This seems like the zone we're in. I wanted to jump into something because I saw it mentioned here by Eric S., and it's totally off topic. We'll come back to baseball. We'll spend 95% of what we're doing here on this. But we got a huge bit of news here. According to Adam Schefter, the Bills are trading STEFFON Diggs to the Texans in exchange for draft pick compensation. Woo! Jeff Manns and I talked about this, I believe it was last week on the Elite Sports Show. Again, that's 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. Where were the Bulls going to be? The Bulls have Josh Allen, who is arguably the MVP of the NFL. There's a lot placed on his shoulders. And there's been an ongoing back and forth with STEFFON Diggs, who apparently, diva, maybe it's personality, I don't know. But STEFFON Diggs, for a guy who's getting 140 targets and catching 100 passes for 8 touchdowns every year, sure seemed to bitch a lot about his workload. Okay. And I don't know. This is, again, just breaking news. We haven't heard the particulars. Maybe we won't hear the particulars. But the bottom line is, it looks like, according to Adam Schefter, that STEFFON Diggs is no longer part of the Bills. That's a significant loss. Okay. They drafted Dalton Kincaid last year, and they've got Dawson Knox, so they can do the 2 tight end set thing more consistently if they want to do that. Okay. So they've got the tight end receiving piece down with Dalton Kincaid at least. And obviously Dawson Knox is a red zone threat. They've got James Cook in the backfield, which is a good piece there. Their receiving core, I mean, we all like Khalil Shakir, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. There's going to be a lot of things on his shoulders now. They added Curtis Samuel and Mac Hollins. Those are very nice complementary pieces. We've seen Samuel used out of the backfield. We've seen him used as a receiver. He's a very versatile weapon, a Deebo Samuel Jr. So they're going to have to make ample use of his all-around talents. The problem for Samuel, he's not a big dude. There's been some injuries there. Mac Hollins is a decent depth receiver, but he really shouldn't be for an upper division team, your third wideout. But he kind of is right now. And that's putting, again, a lot on Khalil Shakir, who we do like at fantasyguru.com, who Jeff Manns has talked about favorably since he was drafted. But the Bills look a little short now at the wide receiver spot. And they'll have to figure that out. Again, we're talking about a Bills team that now lost 100 receptions, 8 touchdowns, lost the guy that was double teamed by the opponents. They're going to have some things to do here. We'll see what they do at the draft. Maybe they make a further move, but that certainly dings the receiving group of the Bills substantially. Now let's talk about things on the other side. Wow. The Texans are all in, and you love to see it. And this can happen in the NFL where situations turn around almost overnight. They went from a crappy organization to getting C.J. Stroud, getting the new head coach, and boom, they became a good team. They became a contending team last year. Well, now they're taking steps. They brought back Dalton Schultz, whose fantasy value is moderate at best now with all these receivers he's dealing with. The numbers he posted last year is probably a best case scenario for him. They brought in Joe Mixon to lead the backfield. So they've got Mixon backed up by Dameon Pierce. So they feel like they've got that taken care of. So you got a solid receiving tight end. You've got a solid workhorse running back. And then you've got Robert Woods, Noah Brown, John Mechie as depth plays behind Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and STEFFON Diggs. Wow. Now, the addition of Diggs means negative things, let's be honest about this, for Collins and Dell. You can't have 3 guys getting 125 targets. I mean, you could. Doesn't happen. Obviously, there were the issues we talked about last year with the Texans and all the injuries they dealt with. It seemed like always one of their top 3 receivers was out for like this whole second half of the season. They get in Diggs, a diva kind of player. But at the same time, they get in the case of Diggs, a guy that still is a difference-making receiver. So that just strengthens the outlook of C.J. Stroud, all the people that were – because Jeff Manns has talked about this. It's not easy, but you can have success in year 1. Year 2 is the real key with the quarterback. Well, the Texans brought in a running back in Joe Mixon that can handle 250-plus touches. They brought in a receiver that can handle 140-plus targets in STEFFON Diggs. They are giving the pieces to Stroud for him to continue what they're doing last season. And maybe even take a step forward now statistically because of that addition. Nico Collins and again, Tank Dell, it's hard to say these guys who were ascending 2 weeks ago are now descending. Obviously, Dell coming back from the injury and all of that. But that's 150 targets to Diggs. So we'll continue to break this down. We'll have more discussion about this on the Sirius XM show today. Again, that's Elite Sports from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be on with Jeff Mans. We'll break it down more. But that is a big move for both of those franchises. One of them treading water. One of them certainly moving on the way up. Okay, let's get back to Major League Baseball. I talked yesterday about Esteury Ruiz and the fact that Esteury Ruiz was demoted and how this is not a super shock because of the way they utilized him in the second half last year, but it didn't make any sense. You know, they demote him and say he doesn't take good at bats and doesn't get on base. Well, he was doing that. I think it was 3 games or whatever it was. You know, if you're going to make this move, I wondered, why didn't they just make this in the preseason? Like, why didn't they just break camp with him down in the minors? Conspiracy theorists, there's articles out there now discussing this, and I don't know the validity of this. I'm just putting it out there for you. You can research it if you haven't seen it yet. Esteury Ruiz has worn a wristband, the old, little wristband, the rubber wristband around your wrist, that supposedly supported a movement that was anti-A's ownership. I think everyone is anti-A's ownership at this point. I mean, let's be real. They're tearing the team away from the city. They're not treating the fans well. They put a crappy product on the field. Okay, they're moving to Vegas. Such a weird scenario to be moving to a state or a space that doesn't have a stadium for you. You're so lame duck. Like, my gosh, are you lame duck? Anyway, the story is that Ruiz was demoted because he supported an organization that was anti-team. No one from the team that I saw, and again, I didn't do full research on this, but no one I saw from the team came out and said, this is why we did it. I don't think they'd be stupid enough to do that. You're free to do and say and believe whatever you want as an athlete. There are repercussions for that. And I guess it sounds like the repercussion for Ruiz was he was sent to the minors. Now, I don't know. Again, it's weird to take a guy that should be in your lineup every day. If you don't want this guy around because you think he's a detriment to the team, doesn't it make more sense to play him and then trade him? I don't know. It does to me. There are, political point of views, there are religious point of views that individuals have. And if they choose to express those, you have to live with the consequences. Maybe this is a consequence of it. Maybe it's an unintended consequence of it. Maybe this is all a conspiracy that's not true. But I did find it interesting and wanted to point it out to you. Maybe the reason Ruiz was demoted had nothing to do with being on the field, nothing he was doing on the field, none of that at all. Maybe it was because the team didn't like his politics, which were anti-team, which, again, I think everyone kind of is. Josh Jung, the third baseman of the Rangers, who we talked about when the injury occurred earlier this week when he was hit by a pitch on Elite Sports Game Time, again, 8 to 10, Monday through Thursday on Sirius XM. We talked about this live as it happened. I went through the whole display of how he took the pitch and hit him on the wrist and the whole thing. Well, he has the wrist issue. We speculated about, it could be 3 to 4 weeks. It could be 6 weeks. It could be longer. He had surgery on Tuesday, and the current estimate is he's going to miss 6 weeks. We'll see how that goes. If he's back in 6 weeks, maybe mid-May. So obviously a significant blow to the Rangers, a significant blow to obviously Josh Jung owners. I would anticipate, Foscue was brought up. I'll write more about him today in the Rays Rambling piece over at fantasyguru.com. Needless to say, I'm not overly excited about his promotion. I think Ezekiel Duran would be the pickup if he's still on the waiver wire. He'll probably be in the lineup every day. A little bit of power, a little bit of speed, positional flexibility. So he'd be my choice over Foscue. I'll dive into this more. But, just to say it, whenever you have wrist or hand injuries, this is just generally globally. I don't know if this speaks to Jung at all. They can sap your power because you just don't have the strength. So it's possible when Josh Jung returns that there isn't quite the power that there was prior to the injury. And it's going to take longer than 6 weeks for that to return. That'll obviously be something we monitor. But that's the story we've been told, 6 weeks for a return for the Rangers third baseman. Bryce Harper broke out last night, had 3 home runs. And I think this is just a boom-in-your-face reminder of, hey, man, it's early. And I go in the Discord every day at fantasyguru.com, and people want to make moves every day. And I keep saying this. I'm going to write the article. I think it's tomorrow. I'll write it about patience and how long does it take for these numbers to level off? What should you be thinking? I've said it before. Making moves right now. Is someone hurt? Is there a playing time change, or did someone make a stupid drop move? Because I've seen that. Someone in Discord was talking about Nolan Arenado was let go last week. If people do stupid things, all right, okay, then you take advantage of it. There was an Evan Carter for Francisco Lindor trade. I don't get it. Some people are crazy, right? If people are crazy, you take advantage of them. But the idea that, again, in the rankings, and again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about the players, the situations. That I'm not right about everything. But if I got one guy ranked 50th and another guy ranked 22nd, I'm not making a move after 7 days. I don't think you should either. It's just something to think about. Bryce Harper, I think, again, started really slow, and maybe there was some concern. He flipped into the dugout. He had the back issue. Hit 3 home runs last night. It's Bryce Harper, man. He'll be fine. Trevor Story's interesting. He came up this morning in a discussion we were having in the Discord about a guy that could potentially be traded. Trevor Story, if you're going to trade Trevor Story, I think you have to wait, because though there were times in the past where he was fantastic, he almost went 30-30 back in 2018. He had 37 home runs and 27 steals. People forget that. In the last 2 years, he's gone 19-23, which is pretty good in 130 games played, right? He's got power and speed. Now, the batting average is going to be there. He's not a sexy player anymore. People look at him as kind of a Coors Field creation. I get all that. He's off to a moderate start. He had a decent game last night. He's got a steal, 4 RBIs. He scored only 1 run in 6 games. Until he does something big, and he has been extremely streaky over the years, there seems to be a period of time where he always goes, 9 for 20 with 3 home runs. Like, there's always a period, a week or two, where he's on fire. Wait till Trevor Story gets hot, or there's a significant injury at his position, or someone comes to you and says, hey, to make the move. Like, if you go to trade him now, I don't see you getting the return. Last year, he played less than 50 games, not off to a great start. This year, he's got 8 strikeouts in the 6 games. He is a piece that, and again, at the end, if you don't end up trading him, I think that's the end of the world. I mean, the guy could go 2020 this year. Very easily could go 2020 this year if he's healthy. People love 2020 guys. They don't seem to love Trevor Story, but Trevor Story is a legit 2020 threat this year. If he can stay on the field, we'll see if he can. Seiya Suzuki is really interesting. Suzuki was in the cash game breakdown yesterday. He was like the one guy with the Cubs that said, look, even with the weather, we're going with this guy. And what did he do yesterday? He had a good effort. Let me pull it up. He had 2 hits. I'm trying to remember exactly what he did. He had 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. He hit a home run. So, yeah, it was a pretty good game. Suzuki's been batting second, which was the announcement the Cubs made prior to the season. And through 5 games, he's been okay. He's got a 788 OPS. He's hitting 270. The batted ball data is really good. Now, this small sample size, you can't look at 19 batted ball events and say to yourself, this is what he's going to be. That's not fair. That's not right. The data doesn't support it. But 63% hard hit rate and a 95-mile-an-hour exit velocity say that when he's hit the ball, he has hit the ball. Really good start for him. And, of course, batting second is simply a significant positive for Suzuki. Real big fan of Seiya Suzuki this season. I think he went undervalued in some drafts. And I think that with the expectations he came over with, which were very high, the fact that he's just been solid without being very good leads to a scenario where maybe I'd be able to pry him away from another owner for a reasonable price. I like Seiya Suzuki this year, obviously. Aaron Hicks is interesting. Aaron Hicks is a good offensive player who is now 34 years old and who, simply put, cannot stay healthy. Okay, there is no chance he's going to stay healthy. He's played 95 games once in 6 years. He's had 260 plate appearances once in 6 years. He's not going to stay on the field. But what he does do very well is get on base. He's actually got a career 332 on base percentage, which is pretty good for a guy who's got a career 232 batting average. It's 100 points better than his batting average, which is really good. His walk rate's 13%, 50% almost better than the league average. And he, is someone that on a limited basis, short term, could have some success. I bring it up because he hit a home run last night, couple RBIs, couple runs scored. Don't want anyone running to the waiver wire to add Aaron Hicks. Don't think it's wise to run to the waiver wire at Aaron Hicks. I don't think he's going to play every day, and I don't think he's going to stay healthy. Now, speaking of the Angels, let's talk about my guy, Luis Rengifo. The Angels are doing weird things under Ron Washington. They continue to bat Anthony Rendon leadoff, and Anthony Rendon, A, we know he's going to get hurt. B, is one of the most unathletic leadoff men we've seen in recent past, if not ever. And while I get it, and I've talked about this previously with you all, while I get it, Anthony Rendon has, an on-base percentage of his career is 366. He's had 3 or 4 seasons of 400. This year, he's done nothing. Through 5 games, his on-base percentage is 50. Through 5 games, he doesn't have a hit. Okay? I'm looking at what he's done. He's got on base once in 20 plate appearances. Like, why is this guy hitting leadoff? Have patience. You believe it's going to work out. 5 games doesn't matter. All these things. But he's gotten on base once in 20 at-bats or 20 plate appearances. What did he do in spring? He hit 171 in spring. So we're looking at a fella who, had a 569 OPS in spring. He had in his start. He's got a 500 OPS right now in 21 games this season. Not on base percentage, OPS. He's done nothing at any point in 2024. I don't know how that won't last. Okay. The odd thing here is that Aaron Hicks and Mickey Moniak and Miguel Sano are kind of playing alongside, if not ahead of Luis Rengifo. Rengifo was one of my guys that I thought was a good value on draft day. I still would hesitate because everyone's asking about this. It's been a terrible first week. I will still hesitate to drop him if for no other reasons than he qualifies at 4 spots. Okay, which is kind of important. Okay, that you're going to need that. Okay, we also need to know, like I just said, Aaron Hicks is going to get hurt. Anthony Rendon is going to get hurt. I don't know if Miguel Sano even sticks with the team long term. He lost all that weight in the offseason trying to get in shape and rekindle his career. We'll see if that even happens. There are pieces here that easily could go down. And I hate to say this, but Mike Trout's going to get hurt at some point, right? Yeah, he is. That's what history says. There's a lot of volatility in this Angels lineup. So I would try very, very hard to avoid dropping Luis Rengifo, if you can stomach it. And again, I think a week is plenty of time to wait for a guy. Whether Rengifo is playing every day and going 1 for 20 like Rendon, or just not playing very much right now, I'm having patience with him. We'll see if that's something that you're allowed to do in your league because of the setup. Head-to-head's different. You got to win now. I get that. I'm holding on. I've got him in a couple leagues. I haven't considered dropping him yet. I haven't even looked at dropping him yet. That's me. Let's talk about the pitching for a bit here. And the pitching side of things is really, it's kind of where we're at right now, right? Let's pull up Josh Hader. Let's talk about the bullpen. I've talked about this a lot. I won't belabor the point. People overdraft closers every year. It's just a fact. I won't belabor the point that 4 outings, which is what we're at with Josh Hader, is not enough to make any determination, because it's not. 100% not. But, we're 4 efforts into the season for Josh Hader. He's got no saves. He's got a blown save, and he's got 2 losses. Woof. Woof. I mean, he's got a 41% strikeout rate, right? He's got a 12% walk rate. Those numbers are very similar to what he normally posts, so there's nothing crazy there. The issue for him, is he allowed a home run. He only allowed 3 home runs all last season, so that's not likely to be an issue that becomes an issue, if you will. But in 4 outings, blown save and 2 losses. In a roto league, we don't normally count losses, and blown saves aren't normally counted either. In a head-to-head, in a points league, that sucks. That's at least minus 12 points, 13 points. It might be more depending upon your setup. That sucks. So, no reason to panic with Josh Hader. No reason to get nervous with Josh Hader. But this is the roller coaster that we get when we talk about relievers. When we're talking about roller coaster, it looks like the White Sox, who are a terrible team, intend to have Michael Kopech be their closer this year. And we've talked about this, whether it was Leisure, whether it was Brebbia, whether it was Wilson. Looks like Kopech is the early favorite for that role. And I think we got the whole Michael Kopech experience last night. He picked up a save against the Braves. How did he do it? In extremely messy and frustrating fashion. He pitched an inning and 2/3, got the save, only allowed 1 run, but he allowed 2 hits. One of the hits was a home run. He walked a couple of guys. He threw a ton of pitches. And Jeff Manns was joking about this. He goes, we're watching the game, and he said, is it just me, or is Michael Kopech just trying to throw 100 miles an hour on every pitch? And it's like, it looks like he's kind of throwing 100 miles an hour on every pitch. His average fastball velocity to date is 98 miles an hour. Even when working out of the bullpen, he was throwing 95. So, he's cranking it up. And to date, and it's only been a couple of outings. How many outings do they have? 3? Yeah, 3 outings. And it's only 4 1/3 innings. He's throwing his fastball 80% of the time. I don't think that fastball is Mariano Rivera. So we'll see how this plays out. But if Kopech is on waiver wire, and you want to make a move, you need some help in the bullpen, you're thinking of looking at your team, Kopech appears to be the guy. Remember that the White Sox aren't very good. There's not likely to be a ton of save opportunities here. That Kopech, before we get ahead of ourselves, has walked 3 guys in 4 1/3 innings. Since the start of last season, he's walked more than 6 batters per 9 innings. His walk rate since the start of last season is 15.5. This is horrid. That is he's almost double the league average in terms of his walk rate. You can't do that and be successful. It's the Tanner Scott thing. Tanner Scott was that guy before last season. Anyone care about Tanner Scott? No. Last year, Tanner Scott takes the 15% walk rate down to 8%. What happens? Tanner Scott takes off. We've seen it with Tanner Scott this year too, right? There's been times where he's walking guys, he's throwing the ball over the strike zone. You can have success with this stuff because the stuff is dominant with a guy like Kopech, but there's been injuries, there's been ineffectiveness, and there's been wildness with him. So be very cautious with that. He is the guy right now, but as you can tell, tepid stamp of approval for him. Mason Miller came in last night for the Athletics, and another team that sucks, another team that's not going to win games. And Mason Miller came in last night, and I think I saw that he threw the 5 hardest fastballs. Now, Yohan Duran's not playing yet, but I think Mason Miller threw the 5 hardest fastballs of the season last night. His first outing, and again, this is the experience with young players in particular. His first outing, he pitched an inning. He walked a guy, gave up 2 runs. Yesterday, he threw 2 innings, walked a guy. Who cares in 2 innings, I guess, but struck out 4 and was dominant. Everything he was throwing was 100 miles an hour. He was using his off-speed stuff effectively. He dominated the Red Sox. And that's the exciting part with Mason Miller. He throws 100 miles an hour, and the stuff is elite. And he should have tons of success out of the bullpen. Now, the A's still want to use him as a starter. They did talk all spring about using Mason Miller in multi-inning scenarios like they did yesterday. It's unclear if that is going to continue to be their plan, meaning is he going to throw 7th and 8th innings? Is he going to come in when the game is on the line in the 6th and pitch the 6th and the 7th? How often is he going to get the save? How many save opportunities are there going to be? These are all open-ended questions. But through 2 outings, we've had the full Mason Miller experience. The real question with him, besides what role he is filling, which obviously means so much to us in the fantasy game, is what will his workload look like? Is he going to be able to stay healthy? Can he make 60 appearances out of the bullpen and throw 85 innings? We shall see. But a great effort for him last night and very heartening. Though, again, saves with him, we're still uncertain how that's going to play out. Abner Uribe, we're pretty sure how that's going to play out. Abner Uribe is the closer for the Brewers. He's had 3 of the 4 save opportunities. The only one he didn't get is because he pitched, I think, the previous 2 days. He's now 3 for 3 in save opportunities, picking up his 3rd last night. Interestingly, for a guy that throws 100 miles an hour, what's his average fastball velocity? 99.3. For a guy that throws 100 miles an hour, as he did last year, he throws 100. That's who he is. He's not missing bats right now. It's only 3 innings, okay, but 2 strikeouts and 10 batters faced, 20% strikeout rate. Last year was 31%. I would anticipate that number going up. The bottom line is if he controls the strike zone, like all these guys really, like, Abner Uribe throws 100 miles an hour. His stuff is good. That fastball pops. The slider is terrific. Like both this fastball and the slider could be, according to some scouting sources, double plus. Meaning like all-star level stuff. The problem is that he only throws 2 pitches and his command is horrible. It's been okay thus far. If he can keep the command and control, that piece of his game together, he could rip off 15, 20 saves here before Devin Williams returns. Now, we're anticipating 3 months for Devin Williams. What if it's 4 months? What if he doesn't pitch this year? What if he comes back and he's not effective? So Uribe is, again, this is the stupid game we play on the waiver wire. Did you grab Uribe? Did you grab Piamps? Did you grab McGill? Which one of these 3 did you grab? Because everyone in the universe was guessing. No one knew. Everyone had a favorite. I had Piamps as my favorite. Everyone had a favorite. No one knew. If you got Uribe, you made the right choice, quote, unquote. You made the right guess because he's getting it done right now, and he's looking pretty sharp in doing it for the Brewers. A little update on Paul Sewald and Romano before we talk about starting pitchers. Paul Sewald's got the grade 2 oblique issue that he's dealing with. He's throwing on flat ground from a distance of 60 feet. Now, I didn't see any video, and flat ground on 60 feet doesn't mean anything. He could have been throwing it like this, right? But the fact he's throwing the ball with a grade 2 strain is encouraging. They're letting him progress. Obviously, the healing process is occurring as they anticipated. First of many steps. He's at least a couple of weeks away, I would think. But this news might suggest he's back in April, which for a grade 2 strain of the oblique, that wasn't always a lock. And remember as well that obliques it's that muscle on the side here, right? Or this side, depending on which side it is. It's that muscle that, there's so much rotation and turning, especially when you're pitching, right? Or swinging. There's just a lot of rotational stuff in baseball. The oblique has a lot of stress. And if you don't let that injury heal, it could be something that lingers. It could be something you tweak again and all that kind of stuff. So they'll be cautious and proceed with caution. But it does seem like there's a chance that Sewald's back in April, which is good news because when the injury originally occurred, I think I probably said at some point, hey, throw April out the window. We'll see. Jordan Romano has the elbow inflammation. He threw on Tuesday. He made it through the session without any setbacks. There was no negative reports there. There is no clarity on when Romano's going to be back for the Jays. We don't know if he's going to go out on a minor league assignment, which seems likely, but we don't know if that's going to happen. We don't know if they bring him back and pitch him in the 7th and 8th inning for a couple of days and then give him the 9th inning. But he is trending in the right direction as well. His return date is anticipated to be earlier than Sewald. It could be in a week or two. That's kind of where we're going. We need more information, but just wanted to point out that Romano did throw, got good news. So Jordan Romano looks like he's inching closer to return to the Blue Jays. Let's talk some starting pitchers. And these two guys, I mean, when Ronaldo Lopez in a revenge game and Garrett Crochet against the Braves go out and are dueling, throwing shutouts here, it's damn impressive. Let's start with Crochet, who in his first outing had a good effort, but the competition was weak. When you have the effort he had last night, which was basically, I think he just allowed a solo home run to Ozuna, right? Yeah, 7 innings, 1 run allowed, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. That against anybody, okay. Against the Braves, I know the weather was bad, and against the Braves, that's really impressive, and that's really going to wake up a lot of people. Someone asked a question this morning, and I said, well, add Crochet. Here's the furtherance of that comment. I've said this many times before. I've written it, but repeat it. There are no innings on Garrett Crochet. Okay? So, even if he dominates like this, I've said it previously, he's kind of in that Uribe Perez zone from last year. If he throws 110, 120 innings, we'll be doing cartwheels. There's no volume on his arm. He's dealt with injuries. He's coming back from injury. He didn't throw a pitch in 2022. Last year, he threw 35 innings. He's thrown 35 innings in 2 years. He's thrown 90 innings in 3 years. He's thrown 100 innings in 4 years. There's no volume here. So he is someone that if I added off the waiver wire last night, or even if I added him after his first start, he's someone I'm trading because there is a fervor of excitement around him. As I said, I legitimately think 100, 110 innings is probably a best case scenario. He definitely has the ability to miss bats. He has had issues with the walk in the past, hasn't at all to date, but it's 2 efforts. I really want to see how that plays out. Going back to the rotation is different. There's way more of a reliance on that changeup of his. Again, kind of like Uribe, the fastball slider are dynamic, which is why he was utilized in the bullpen at the start of his career. But that third pitch and that command piece are really a work in progress. My best advice with Crochet would be to trade him because you're going to get a really high return. And I just don't see this lasting. And I also don't anticipate the success being anywhere near the level it has been in the first 2 starts where he's looked like a Cy Young contender. He's been fantastic. Reynaldo Lopez went out last night, and he allowed a run over 6 innings, walked 2, struck out 5. Again, in his revenge game against the White Sox. The White Sox suck. Not surprised. Let's get this straight. The White Sox, the A's, there's some teams that aren't good. So when pitchers go out and have success against these teams, you got to understand what they're doing. A pitcher having success against the White Sox, that should happen. It's more of a concern when it doesn't than when it does almost. That's the first start that he's made this year. Same thing with Lopez. The Braves signed him and said, we want to make you a starter. Now, the Braves have got a lot of young pitching. A lot of their young pitching is dealing with some health issues and all that. The bottom line is Lopez has to perform or the Braves will either make a trade or just turn to a younger arm. So that is lurking over his shoulder. Also lurking over his shoulder is the last time he threw 70 innings as a big leaguer was back in 2019. Why? Because the last 2 years, he made 129 outings out of the bullpen. He has been utilized heavily as a bullpen arm. And after really struggling as a starting pitcher at the big league level, he went to the bullpen and he found himself. Okay. So it was very odd and kind of a little bit perplexing that the Braves would sign him and say, we're going to make this guy a starter. When the trade or the signing came down, I forget, was it a signing or a trade? It was a signing, right? When it came down, everyone kind of thought, all right, he's going to go in the bullpen, right? Okay, let's make him a starter. Okay. Same issues with these other guys. Again, the last 2 years, he's thrown 130 innings. The last time he's thrown 70 in the big leagues was back in 2019. Can he make 25 starts? Could he even hold up for that? He hasn't made 10 starts since 2019. I don't know. I do know that there are concerns, personally at least, I think in other circles too, about the stuff playing as a starter. The velocity's always been there. That's always impressed. And the hard stuff is there, but he lacks the finesse. He lacks the off-speed pitch that really separates you as a starting pitcher. He's never really had the strikeout rate in conjunction with the stuff. It's never happened. There have been periods of time where his ability to control the strike zone has been good. There have been other periods of times where it's poor. He's another one of these guys that if you want to add for nothing and ride in good matchups or till he breaks down, okay. Big arm, okay. But, he's 30 years old now. He hasn't been a starting pitcher in years, as I've detailed. Be very cautious with Ronaldo Lopez long term. Who's next up on the docket? Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber's really interesting. Shane Bieber's had all this success. Another strong effort for him last night, continuing the success he had in spring. Unfortunately, he's got 20 strikeouts in 12 innings, okay, which is phenomenal. And obviously, no starting pitchers do that, and certainly Bieber's not going to do that. The fascinating thing with Bieber is that he's doing this, and you think to yourself, oh, he went on offseason, he trained and drive line, he added velocity, all these kind of things. Yeah, but no. Okay, the velocity, let's pull it up. The velocity actually is half a mile an hour ahead of last year. It's like right on last year. There's really been no change. So I think I saw yesterday the number was basically what he was last year. Despite the success he had, the velocity doesn't look like it's holding to where we were all excited in spring. Not that he can't be successful with his current level of velocity. We talked about this. I wrote about him in the preseason. The amazing thing is this is also wonky with Bieber. His CSW is 35.5%. It has never been higher. Okay. His swinging strike rate of 16.9% is 3 percentage points above his career number. Those numbers say, well, yeah, the strikeouts are legit. Velocity doesn't say the numbers are legit. And here's the next number, which is really scary. His first pitch strike rate, which is 65% for his career, which is a good number. It's 47% right now. You can't have a 47% first pitch strike rate and strike out, 12 guys per 9 innings. Like those numbers don't go together. They don't go together for Bieber either. In total, an amazing start statistically. I like the ground ball rate. I like the fact he hasn't walked anybody. But let's be realistic about our expectations moving forward. I think he's going to end up being someone that you drafted and you're perfectly happy with, but just don't expect a return to dominance or greatness despite the numbers we've seen the first two starts. I got a question about Zach Gallen in the Discord, and I said I'd talk about it, and it's a legitimate concern. The question was, I'm a little nervous about Gallen with all the innings he threw last year because not only did he, throw 200 innings during the 210 innings in the regular season, then the postseason. That's legit. We don't oftentimes talk about postseason innings, but they matter. 1, 2, 3, 5 starts, it matters, especially at the end of the season. It's not a reason to avoid drafting somebody. It can be a reason, where everyone's equal. I'm going to take the guy that didn't pitch in the postseason. Could be that cherry on top. You can be that. I don't have concerns about Gallen wearing down to the point where he's not usable or he struggled. Obviously, I had him listed as an SP1 this year. I think it is fair to point out, as the user did as well, that I don't really necessarily like what I see. Now, this is kind of the Shane Bieber zone. He's made 2 starts as Gallen. His ERA is 0.8. His WHIP is 1.0. Ray, what the hell are you talking about? User, what the hell are you talking about? Well, if you dig a little bit deeper, you don't see support for the ratios. We all know the ratios are bananas anyway. His O swing, which is the amount of swings he's generating outside the strike zone, lower in his 2 starts, but it's lower than his career number. His first pitch strike rate is 49%, which is horrible. Horrible. The league average is 61%. 48.8 is atrocious. His career number is 65%. So career low O swing, a career low first pitch strike rate. His CSW of 26.9%, career low. His 9.7% swinging strike rate, career low. It's 2 starts. We need time. We need to breathe. But when you have career lows across the board in some of these very important measurements, you don't deserve an ERA of 0.8. You don't deserve a WHIP of 1. So he is definitely someone that we'll need to keep an eye on moving forward. Again, I'm not ringing the panic bell at all. It's 11 innings. I think that these things have an ability to work themselves out. The last 2 years, Gallen has been one of the more consistent high-end pitchers in all of baseball with 2 very similar back-to-back seasons. I'm going to anticipate he's in that same zone again. But despite what we see outwardly, there are some concerns that deserve our attention here as we move forward. I think that's a fair way to put it. Alec Marsh held the Orioles to a run and 2 hits. I mean, he threw his changeup and his sweeper 49% of the time. That's a lot. He faces the White Sox next, though. So if you're a streamer, we just talked about the White Sox. Alec Marsh, long-term, I'm not in on at this moment. Alec Marsh, short-term, I'm in a head-to-head league. I'm looking next week against the White Sox. Yeah. So keep an eye on that. And again, it all depends. But Alec Marsh is not someone I'm running to in a general sense. But if I'm looking to play the short-term game, White Sox, White Sox, White Sox. Shane Baz going to the minor leaguer. Shane Baz. I mean, my dynasty, I have a dynasty league team and a keeper league team. My keeper league team has the following: Taj Bradley, injured list. Brian Wu, injured list. Walker Buehler, injured list. Jordan Lawler, injured list. Noel Marte, suspension. And now Shane Baz being shut down from throwing with an oblique issue. I'm in a keeper league where Baz, Bradley, Wu, Buehler, Lawler, Marte are all out. Like, give me a break. That's one of the greatest collection of talent you could ever have in a keeper league. Right? I also have Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford in that league. So I'm stocked. But all those guys are hurt. Baz has got an oblique issue that he dealt with earlier. Now it's the elbow issue. It was the elbow issue. Then it was the oblique issue. He hurt himself lifting weights a while ago. This has not been a solid start to the season for Shane Baz. He could still end up returning to the rotation for the Rays at some point, dominate this season, all of that. But a couple of physical setbacks now, including the oblique issue he's dealing with right now that has shut him down from throwing while they get a handle on that. We were talking about it earlier with Paul Sewald. Oblique issues are 2 to 3 weeks if everything is perfect. More likely it's 4 to 6 weeks. It can be longer than that if something lingers or there's a... Shane Baz, just an update. Camanero's on the injured list with his thigh issue, by the way. They're hoping that's going to be just the minimum stay. The other Rangers elite level prospect, they're hoping that's going to be a minimum stay. But those two guys dealing with some issues there for the Rays. Walker Buehler, who I just mentioned, has got that elbow issue, the longest return ever from Tommy John surgery for a guy who's never had a setback. He had a rehab start over the weekend through 3 1/3 innings, gave up 4 runs. And he's got another minor league start at AAA on Saturday, and then they'll decide. Okay, so it sounds like the plan is basically for him to make multiple starts beyond the Saturday one. I'm still, at this point, not really anticipating Buehler pitching in April. Again, the Dodgers are going with bullpen games the first week of the season. So they're in no rush to get innings piled up on their starter pitchers or use their starting pitchers aggressively. They're just in no rush to do that. Buehler is hitting benchmarks. He's moving forward. He's progressing. Still don't have a target date. And again, I'm not anticipating using him in our fantasy space in the month of April. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just where I'm at right now. His teammate, Bruce Graterol, who has got a shoulder issue, was not supposed to be a big deal. They said it wasn't a big deal. They said it wasn't a big deal. Put him on the injured list, not a big deal. Now he's been transferred to the 60-day injured list. Still saying it's not a big deal. He just needs more time. He's out until mid-May at least now with the shoulder issue. If you have Bruce Graterol, and even if you've got the IL spot, throw him on an IL spot, I guess, if you have unlimited or if you have openings. But as soon as you don't have an opening, missing 2 months to start the season with a shoulder issue is not, hey, let's hold on to this guy, especially when he's just a setup man. So disappointing to see there with him, but that's just where we're at. Sonny Gray's got that hamstring issue. Weather is complicating his return to the big leagues. He's going to throw a simulated game today at AA Springfield. Not even a real game, a simulated game. He was supposed to make a rehab start down at AAA, but because of the weather, that changed. So he's going to make the outing today, which is a simulated game at AA. He's expected to make a rehab start for Memphis in his next outing. That's the AAA affiliate. And then returning for the season debut. So today he's going to throw a simulated game. He then will make a start in the minors. And then the following start after that is with the big league. So maybe next weekend, Sonny Gray could be back in pitching for the Cardinals. Let's do a little news check here. We had the news with Stefon Diggs break earlier. So let's take another look at the NFL. Let's see. So okay. So nothing in the NFL. In the world of baseball, Trevor McGill of the Brewers, well, even more validity to Abner Uribe taking over the ninth inning. Concussion has been diagnosed with Trevor McGill. He's been placed on the 7-day injured list. Wow. I missed this. I must have missed this story. He went to a Spectrum store on a scheduled off day and fainted. Oof. Hope he's okay. Anyway, he's been placed on the concussion list. That's basically the only storyline that's there that we didn't talk about. Let's see if there's anything here quickly on Twitter X. There's always something on Twitter X, right? Yeah. Okay. Nothing exciting here. I think we covered it all. So let's go and see if we got any questions here at Fantasy Sports Dailies before we wrap these things up. Chaka, going back to the football side of things, looks like I'll be starting Strata or Dak a ton in my fantasy league. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but yeah, I think that's a good duo. I'll say that. Might be making some difficult decisions on a weekly basis, but I can't complain about that duo. And Stroud definitely has the pieces and weapons at his disposal. Mario Espinoza asks, hard hit rate for Polanco or Verdugo? We'll talk about this. Let me pull my schedule up just to verify this. Schedule Ray Flowers. When is sample size article I'll have on the weekend? Is it the weekend? It's Friday. Friday's the sample size article. Maybe I'll move it up. We'll see. I'll try to figure this out. But the bottom line is I'll tell you what the hard hit rates are, these guys. Okay. Or the hard hit rate. 20 batted ball events is not enough to make any conclusion. So it's good to know the guy is hitting it well or not hitting it well, but it's not remotely an answer for either one of these guys at this point in time. It's just not enough data of a sample size for that to matter, to be quite frankly. In Verdugo's case, his hard hit rate is 25%. That mark has been 38% each of the last 3 years. His current mark is 38%. I would fully anticipate that number equalizing over the course of the season and moving back up. Jorge Polanco is someone that is batting third for the Mariners. He started out obviously slowly. The big issue for him has been the strikeout rate. I mean, 42% strikeout rate. That's not Jorge Polanco. He's in a funk. He's never had a mark above 25%, and that was last year. And that was the first time he was over 21%. So I would clearly anticipate him making more contact moving forward. His hard hit rate would actually be a career best right now at 42%. Last year it was 41%. So again, all of these numbers matter. Reading them in the context of the overall person is important. But 12 batted ball events for Polanco, you need like 50. Like, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. And I'll get into the real numbers. Maybe that's, I'm trying to remember what the exact number is. Wish I had it handy. Let's see if I can pull that up as we're talking here. See if I can, and this is interesting. When I used to be able to do this with Kyle Lofrank, he'd be able to vamp and talk a little bit. And I would then go find the data and everything would be good. Now I got to do the whole thing, right? Which makes it a little bit more challenging. Let's see if I've got that written down here. I'm pulling up the chart I have handy. Let's see. I don't have it listed here quickly. I'll find that information out, though. Be happy to share it. But again, 12 batted balls, not enough to worry about. Jack B says, Rengifo is leading off today. Let's go. Let's pull up the lineup for the Angels as we talk. We talked about him earlier. Rengifo is indeed batting leadoff. He's playing third base. Rendon's getting a rest. They're going Rengifo, Hicks, Trout, Ward, Drury, Sano, Ohapi, Adele, and Nito to face the left-handed AJ Puck. So let's go Luis Rengifo. Jason Foley is a great ad. Jason Foley is a fine ad. We haven't been impressed by Lang to date, and Foley has looked good. And, as I said all preseason, if I was drafting Lang, I would try to draft Foley behind him. And then Angelo, you also said you're all in on Crochet. I'd be all in for now, and I'd be all out soon. That's just how I would play it for the reasons that I discussed a little bit earlier. So go to fantasyguru.com, click on the Join Now tab in the top right. Use that promo code FSD20, FSD20 to sign up. I'm here in the morning to do 11 o'clock Eastern time on Fantasy Sports Daily. I'll be with Jeff Manns in a couple hours here. Let me make a note. Thinking about something I got to do later. I'll be on with Jeff Manns at 3 to 6 Eastern today. We'll talk more about the STEFFON Diggs trade. We'll talk more baseball, some football, of course, on that show. I'll be on with Justin Fensterman tonight, 8 to 10 Eastern on E-League Sports Game Time, which is obviously our daily show Monday through Thursday, where we talk about what's going on in the field. We were talking about Bryce Harper last night as he was hitting the home runs. We were talking about Crochet versus Lopez as it was happening. The night before, we were talking about Blanco in a no-hitter. We were following the bets that we made, that I placed, that Justin placed, that Jeff Manns placed, doing all that in the show. So check us out. So Tuesdays is the big day. Here once, twice on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. All-in package for all the sports. The football package if you want to get involved. Football, baseball, we've got seasonal, DFS, and wagering, so you can get involved in all three of those areas if you'd like. You can get the all-in package for baseball to get you covered there as well. So check it out over at fantasyguru.com. So we'll be back tomorrow here on the show as we are every day, Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern. I am Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by Fantasy Guru.